You're listening to the Live Free podcast. I'm your host, Christine, certified life coach, pain to power mentor, and creator of Embody You Mindset Mastery School. I'm here today to discuss living life after disease, disaster, or adversity, to discuss living life fully once again. A life of hope, peace, and resiliency. A life fully embodied. I utilize the lessons that I learned going through not one, but two primary cancers. I'm here today to guide you to the life of your dreams, turn your pain into power, and lead you back to yourself. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Live Free podcast. Today I have Jodi on the podcast because it is, at this time of recording, October, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I wanted to bring on a couple of survivors just to give you a little bit of a place to stand from, a place to listen to when maybe you're recently diagnosed or something's going on in your life where you really need to be able to hear other people's stories to allow yourself to get into a little bit of a better perspective. So we're starting with Jodi. This month I have one more, and I'm thinking about adding a few more along the way. So let me know in the comments what you think about that. So we're moving forward into Jodi's interview. Jodi is such an extraordinary person. She has such a kindness and a warmness to her, and I know that you will feel it inside this podcast episode. So enjoy. Let's get started. Here, she is a cancer survivor and is so brave and here to tell her story and lend a little bit of a hand to anybody else going through the same thing. So welcome, Jodi.
Hi. Nice.
Okay, so let's get started a little bit with your story. What kind of cancer did you have?
So I was HER2 positive breast cancer. So invasive ductal carcinoma just on the left breast. I was diagnosed, I was 26 years old when I was diagnosed. Just this past, at the end of November, I found the lump. And was diagnosed 2 days before Christmas. I got the phone call from my surgeon telling me and confirming that I had cancer. So that was tough.
Of course. And what a huge thing to have to go through at such a young age.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So how did you find the lump, Jodi?
It's interesting. I ran into a lady that I knew from when I was young, the day prior to finding my lump, and she had gone, talking a little bit about what she's been doing over the years, and she ended up going on and telling me that her experience with breast cancer and the issues that she had had, and I couldn't get her out of my head. And even that night, the next morning, I was just doing my makeup in the morning. I usually have routine mammograms, but this just turned out I was doing my makeup and I had an itch on my side and kind of went to bring my arm back. And I think just heightened awareness just because of running into her the day before made me realize that there was something there, and it was already a decent size for me to not even be checking to feel it. So that's how that came about. And then from there, things moved pretty quickly. That was a Friday, so I had to kind of wait the weekend to try and get in anywhere to get a mammogram done. And from there, I had the mammogram done, and I read my own results, of course, on eHealth, which reading them, I knew it wasn't going to be good. And it was the 9th of December. I saw my surgeon and, walked through all of the steps and possibilities with him and did the biopsies. And then it was, like I said, the 23rd of December that I got my results back. So
Wow. Did they give you a stage at that time?
Um, they did based on just the size of what the tumor was at the time. So I was a stage 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and that's so scary. So you're just going through your routine. Thank goodness you met somebody who heightened that for you.
Mm-hmm.
And within what sounds like a month, maybe month and a half, you're in full swing. Is that right?
Yes, yes. And so I got and with Christmas being kind of in there that couple of weeks, things were a bit delayed, I think. So I ended up starting my chemotherapy mid-January by the time it got going. Yeah.
It's a rough Christmas.
It was scary. Like reading the results initially threw me off, I think, and that's probably the hardest part of my journey so far. Like just that not knowing and needing to confirm it. And even once I had that confirmation of it, it was just a matter of like, okay, now what, right? Like it was just everything felt like it took so long because you just wanted to know, okay, what is it? What's the treatment plan? And it just, once I kind of knew and met with them and met with my oncologist, it was much not easier, but just having a plan in place and knowing what to expect and kind of what order things were going to go in for me, it made me feel a little more at ease with everything. It was,
Right.
I guess, just looking back at it, I still like when I read that initial mammogram was hard. That's when it was extremely emotional and very scary. Like that was my initial reaction was just fear. And being a single parent as well with 2 boys, and they were 10 and 15 at the time. So, just that fear of the unknown and that fear of just the uncertainty for me, the fear of, what they might go through, how they're going to think, the fear of what does my life look like, and there was just so many thoughts that initially cross your mind, and it's scary. Um, but it's odd. I find it odd because all the way along after I had my treatment plan, I found that I was very almost disconnected from my diagnosis. I guess that's the best way to kind of describe it. It's something where you just keep going along day by day, and you don't really I didn't really realize what really I was going through. And I wasn't emotional all the way through it. It wasn't until probably a month ago, my treatments were done 3-4 months ago, and I've had my surgery, and it wasn't until all of that kind of was over that I started noticing, like now I can reflect back and go, okay, yeah, I like to think I thought the worst, and it was actually turned out better than what I expected. So obviously I had some big fears to start with, but you know what, in knowing that it turned out better, and I guess this doesn't necessarily happen for everybody, but I was happy that my treatment plan went as planned. There was no glitches, there was no changes needed for me. So that I think made it easier, both going through chemo and then being off for that 6 weeks and then having a double mastectomy done. So, but now it's hitting a little bit more. Some days I'm good, some days it's just kind of hits, and it doesn't. There's no real rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that the truth? You
Yes.
know, Jodi, that feeling of disconnected, a lot of survivors really talk about that, this kind of fight or flight that takes over, and this ability to get through some of the most difficult and painful and arduous,
Yeah.
moments of your life. We have this uncanny ability as humans to get through things that we don't think we can get through,
True.
you
So
know?
true.
Yeah, yeah.
True.
And so I know that you utilize that, but now you're starting to feel a little bit of kind of like a what the heck just happened sort of
Mhm.
emotion.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's normal too. I've heard
Yeah.
that from so many survivors as well.
Yeah, that's yeah. It's I always felt so odd about that, like thinking, okay, like I don't have emotions towards this, but I think that's what it is just putting one step in front of the other. You're fighting kind of every single day and you're just doing it. So you don't really have time to reflect. You're just moment by moment, basically, and life is still kind of going on all around you. And yeah.
That's right. And so what was the moment to moment? Like so you started off, you were diagnosed at Christmas and then you started chemotherapy. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So the first couple months of chemotherapy was the AC treatment. It was tough. It was every 2 weeks. That was the very first dose that I had. I was extremely scared to get chemotherapy. Like, I'm usually a reader and I need to know everything before I go into anything. And so for me, I had to kind of let everything go. Like, I felt for me it worked best to not look anything up, like there's so many things you could possibly come across. So I have thought, you know what, I just have to put my trust in the health team that I had. And so I just would take the information that they gave me to, if I had questions, that was fine. But I just kind of went with what they had. And but that very first dose of chemotherapy was very nerve-wracking to say the least for me. And then I got home, I kind of forgot those simple things of, eat lightly on those chemo days. So I had a rough day when I came back because I thought, oh, I'm going to treat myself, I have coffee and a bagel when I was done chemo because I thought it was great. I felt great. And of course, stopped at Dairy Queen for a blizzard. And by that night, I was extremely nauseous, like a nauseous. I have nauseated. I've never felt like that before. So that was rough. I couldn't even bring myself to read the paperwork that was all sent home with me from the cancer clinic. It was interesting, but of course I got home and my son and my partner both ended up with fevers and not feeling well. So that first week I had to isolate my kids over at my parents' house. So I and my partner went back to Saskatoon, so he stayed there. So I was alone at home for that first week, which I made it through, but I was not thrilled to be by myself, that's for sure.
Such a tough, so many things. Like there's this chemical going into your body, the fact that you're sick, the fact that you've got cancer all at once and it all hits, like I
Yes.
find in the beginning, and then now you are alone. Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
alone. Yeah, that was scary. But
Yeah.
it made it through the first night and it was, but it was that first time until the nausea and like I couldn't keep anything. I couldn't get anything in. I couldn't eat, right? So that was hard that first week. It was like I have to have at least, some applesauce or drinks, right? Like being hydrated is so important. And even to just get water in was tough that week. But in the whole big picture, as I could talk to the cancer clinic, the pharmacy worked great for me and with me. So they would make adjustments every couple of weeks until we kind of got it figured out till the end of those 4 doses were over. So there definitely are things that they work around and have numerous, options for you if like to help with side effects, which is amazing. So yeah.
Yeah, so really reaching out and utilizing these people and allowing yourself to be helped.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
They're so knowledgeable.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
after that first 4 months, the next 3 months were the paclitaxel weekly. And so of course that switch over for me, even though it wasn't great, the one I was getting and the side effects were still there. I was comfortable with that one. So it was hard to kind of switch over and start something new again, but it worked out okay. So the change wasn't that bad. Numerous side effects from that one over the weekly paclitaxel, but yeah, it's been challenging, but I'm done. So.
And that's good. And so 4 months of chemo, 12 weeks of paclitaxel. So was it a 5-month chemotherapy regime?
Yeah, the 2 months were the AC, and then the 3 months. So 5 total. Yeah.
5 total. Okay, gotcha. So
Yes.
5 total of chemotherapy. And then what happened? Did you go into surgery or into radiation after that?
I only needed to do the surgery. So I was kind of given those options. Initially, what we would do for surgery, I could have chosen to just do a lumpectomy, but I, being 46, and I just thought, you know what, I just want to get it done, right? So do both, do a double mastectomy. So that's what I kind of ended up choosing to do. So right now, I started back after I was done my surgery. I was able to start back on Herceptin, which is a targeted treatment for the HER2 positive cancer that I do have. So knowing that initially when I met with my oncologist, being told that HER2 positive cancer 30 years ago or more, I wouldn't have survived that.
Yeah.
So research and time has benefited a lot of people with breast cancer these days, and I can only speak for the one that I've gone through. But yeah, the targeted treatment is, my doctor initially told me, and that was the thing she said, was when you go in to, come and see me, she said, the biggest thing I want you to know is that we're going to work at we're going to cure your cancer, not just treat it, right? So that was one thing that I did remember, and that was wonderful. So yeah, so
Huge thing for a doctor to say, to be able to say.
Yes, because that would have not been the result had it been how many years ago, right? So that was good. So now it's sorry, my animals are barking.
That's life.
The dog is chasing the cat. So Marley, stop. Hey, come here, get a treat. Come here. I'm sorry, Christine. This is life, right?
No
Martha,
problem. That's part of life.
come here. I'm just trying to find her a treat. I'm like, come here, Riley. Anyway, so that Herceptin treatment, is every 3 weeks, and that goes for till the end of April still. So I have to finish off my treatment with that. So yeah.
Okay. I got it. So
up as well, right? There we go. Another surgery. I got expanders because I wanted to do a form of reconstruction. So that was something I looked at doing. And so instead of doing initial implants, I went with the expanders. And so a surgery down the road will be just an exchange to getting the implants put in.
Okay. And I was going to ask about that. Like, in terms of your decision to go with a double mastectomy, like, how did you weigh your options? How do you feel? Are you happy with your decision?
Okay. Yes, I am definitely happy with my decision. It was just something immediate that as soon as they said, you can do a lumpectomy or we can do a mastectomy, it was just one of those things that I just said, no, we're just going to do both. So given that option, it just kind of eased my mind of just not having to worry about something randomly showing up in my other breast or in another spot in the original, right? So for me, I felt like it was an easy decision for myself. And just one of the other reasons too would be symmetry. So being larger chested initially, right? To choose to just have one done, like I wanted symmetry kind of in the long run. So that was one of my big decisions as well. So I find it interesting. I was going to, years ago, I had thought about doing a breast reduction, but due to some other health issues, that wasn't going to be a great option for me. So I just chose not to have that elective surgery just because, right? So I think in the whole scheme of things, as far as this cancer diagnosis goes, getting the double mastectomy for myself, it made it easier just because, not that cancer was easy by any means, but I already was kind of at that point, right? Where it was like, okay, I wanted to change anyway. So this would be the hardest way to go about doing that change. And it's definitely a different road and a different outcome as it's going to be. But it's, for me, I don't find it was as much of the losing my breath being a hard part for me. It was much less emotional than I think probably some women do go through, which they do. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Extraordinary. And that's so helpful for women listening here when they're trying to make a decision. What is it that they want to go with, that it truly is your choice, and what speaks to you, what sounds right, what feels good in your body. And that can be enough. Like,
Yeah.
for myself, I chose a lumpectomy because I had the same story, just the reverse. Like, it was,
Okay.
that one felt just instantly right. And that's where I needed to be.
Yes.
And therefore, I feel the same way as you. I have no regrets. This is where I am, and that's what I'm
Yes.
comfortable with.
Yes.
And so what's so interesting, I find, is that a lot of people kind of ask the question, what should I do? And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that there's a should. I think that there is a you. Like,
Yes.
what is your
Yes.
version of this story?
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally agree, because everybody is going to make a choice that has to suit them, right? So, even to ask a doctor, like, what do you think I should do? Or what are your suggestions? I mean, if it's a definite one way where, yes, we need to take off, and do the total mastectomy, I mean, then it's not an option, right? But it is nice when you are able to have those options and be able to weigh them out and take the time. So, and for myself too, having the neoadjuvant chemotherapy and having it prior to surgery, that would have given me, if I was unsure, it would have given me time to decide, because surgery is after the fact, right? Where not everybody has that option. Just depends. There's so many factors that play into it that sometimes surgery is first. So I can imagine that's a much more challenging spot to be in too for a lot of people.
Absolutely. 100%. Okay, so I want to move on a little bit to, what were some of the key things that you utilized to get through this really difficult time in your life? Because there's no question it was extremely difficult. You're feeling the after effects now. Some of the main kind of like savior moments when you were like, I always called this person, or I watched this movie on repeat, or how did you get through?
Okay. Initially, when I was diagnosed, I found it having two children. I needed to be positive for them and needed to make it less scary for them. So it was something that I wanted to be open with them initially, like, and be not as detailed as it had to be, right? But just so that I was open with them and tried to be super positive about everything I was going through. So at first it was like, okay, this is probably going on. And I'm going to lose my hair. I'm going to have some treatments so I can get better, and just kind of the top stuff to get us through. And also and I find just being positive just for their sake was huge. In just, you can't be two different ways. I couldn't be two different ways, so it just made it, positive for them, just made me follow that same kind of path. And so it made it much easier for them to, I felt good knowing I didn't want to hide anything from them. And so it was good for them to know. And I tried initially to make it really fun, knowing I would be losing my hair. And so I had to chat with them both separately. And we eventually all came to agreement that this would be something fun. And it was, do you want to shave my head? If you had one opportunity to shave my head, would you do it? And so my youngest was on board immediately. My oldest, not so quick. He needed to think about it, but he decided he wanted to be a part of it. So he made an invitation for a head shaving pizza party. And so the day, oh gosh, it must have been on day 12, I think, when I knew my hair wasn't holding on anymore. Like, you kind of went to move something and it would just, there was not much attached. So I threw a hat on that day. I was in Saskatoon, and I had my parents drive my kids there the next day, and tried to hold on for a long time, or for that 24-hour period, I guess. And yeah, they came, and we had our pizza, and they did head shaving, and of course the boys, right? It's not just nice, cute little haircuts. It's like all the fun boy stuff, and the mullets, and the mohawks, and shaving things in my head. So it turned out we had a really good kind of start to all of that. So it made it easier for them, a little bit lighter for them. So that is probably my biggest thing throughout this entire journey so far, is just remaining positive, you know?
Yeah.
That
Beautiful.
I mean, I had tons of support. My kids have helped me out more than they have ever helped me out before. And my partner as well had cancer 21 years ago, I believe. So he was a huge support. It was a different kind of support coming from someone who's been down that kind of road, right? So it's different. I mean, my parents are here, so they were a wonderful support, huge support for me as well. So I had help with childcare, I had help with appointments, and anything I needed, really. So friends, was there somebody specific that I called necessarily? No. One thing that I did find extremely helpful was, I'm a part of a couple different groups on Facebook, which I found extremely beneficial to be a part of, because you know what, it's just, sure, it's not necessarily like medical advice, but it's the fact that, you know what, the doctors and, you know, the nurses and everything can give you the actual information, right? But it's kind of nice to just hear from people that have been through some experiences that you're going through, kind of the same things that you're going through, or what kind of tips and tricks worked for them, and what to possibly try. So yeah, so I found that extremely helpful, because any time of the night, if you couldn't sleep or whatever, you just pop your question in and somebody's awake. So yeah, somebody to talk to you. So I found that, to this day, I still find that extremely helpful. And it's interesting now to see yourself on the other end of things, because now it's okay, now I'm not on that initial part anymore, right? It's you feel like you're now able to help somebody through some of their most scary times, or they're coming across some side effects that you've had. So, you know, it is nice to be able to feel like you're helping on the other end too. So, yeah.
Certainly. Absolutely. You know, I've written down a few things as you've been speaking. So I've got channeling fear into creating energy for people that you love.
Mhm.
I've got remaining positive, having a supportive partner, connecting with other survivors,
Yes.
letting people help you, and helping others with tips and tricks that you know along the way. You know, and what's amazing about all of these is that they're all about connection, all of them.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
It
you
is.
know,
Yeah.
yes, and not secluding yourself in this painful time, because
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, especially men who go through cancer, but women for sure as well, they kind of feel like they're a burden. And so then they don't really want to hurt anybody or worry anybody. So they try really hard to say, like, no, I'm fine, I'm good, I don't need any help, da da da. But what's interesting is that all of the tips that you're giving me are all when you allowed people into your life, into your experience,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So yeah, I think it's a really key takeaway to come away with.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And now, kind of being at the end, right, of chemotherapy and surgery, meeting, you know, it's just been in the last couple of months, right, that I've come across and met some survivors like you. And, you know, it's just a different energy. Like, I think that helps me so much, and just going through, you know, processing everything that I've been through in the last how many months, you know, hearing other stories, and hearing, and everybody's stories are so different. Like, nobody has parallel journeys at all. So it's wonderful to have that connection, and for me anyways, to be connected with other survivors. It's just a totally different feeling overall.
Extraordinary. Back to connection. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the current patient listening to this, what were some of the tips and tricks that you did utilize that you found out in your Facebook group for things like side effects that you utilized that you found really effective?
Okay, so side effects. Yeah, where to start with those? I think doing that AC treatment at the beginning with the extreme nausea that I had in that one. Um, Again, working with the pharmacy was huge, but just to have other little tricks, right? Like just kind of trying to keep something in your stomach, even if you can't keep something down. Or um, a, a friend of mine told me about even trying just the sour candies. So this sounds strange, but Jolly Ranchers have kind of gotten me through a lot of that nausea. I don't know how many other people have come across something like this, but it actually worked for me to have something sour, and it kind of would take away a little bit of that nausea, which was amazing. So that was one of my
That is
big
amazing.
odd, but yes. um, for paclitaxel and going through the treatments, I ended up with a lot of neuropathy in my hands and in my feet. And I had read about that, before I started treatment. And that was something where people were suggesting, try icing, like keeping your hands like either ice packs or whatnot. There's special things you can order for them. I just used a little bag with ice packs and stuck my hands and fingers in them, and didn't have to be anything fancy, but just to do that. And apparently the idea was it was supposed to help with neuropathy. The suggestion was to start from the beginning, and I think I didn't start till week 4 or 5 because I kept forgetting to bring them. so, so that was my bad. So maybe that's why I ended up with more neuropathy, or maybe it was going to happen anyway. But it once it hit, it wasn't pleasant at all. So like my feet to this day, I was done chemo June 1st, so it's already been how many months, and my feet are still numb, and my toes are still numb, and my fingers are still numb. But you kind of just accommodate, and your body gets used to that. And yeah, so now it's a matter of waiting for that to hopefully come back to the surface. So yeah, what were some other really good tips and tricks? Because yeah, there was just anything. You're willing to try anything when you're kind of in that boat, right? So drinking, staying hydrated was huge for me. Like you could just feel it. Like it's, I don't know if it just is just flushing everything kind of through your system, but yeah, just making sure you're drinking a lot. The injections that I had to get, along with that first 4 doses of my chemotherapy, I could not do them myself. So I've got a lot of nursing friends that, I had a steady stream every day that would come through for that week that I needed the injections. So they were very helpful for me, because I just couldn't manage doing it myself. I don't know why. But so yeah, that's interesting, because the Grastafil has a lot of, for some people, has a lot of side effects, like with pain and bone pain. I think I got pretty lucky overall with that one. The very first week that I had to do it, though, it was awful. And it didn't hit till the 7th day, the last day of my injection, where I just had those spasms in my lower back and neck at the same time. It felt like a muscle spasm, but it's in the bones, and I had heat on it. I was in the shower. I was just anything to try and help, and even just laying to try and get comfortable to go to bed was awful. But the next day, it just seemed to be so much better. And over the 4 weeks that I would have to do those injections, a week on and a week off, I almost learned how to, I could tell from the first time it hit me, where you just kind of leaned over. I think I wanted to put something in the fridge, and the pain started in my lower back. And so if I could kind of avoid some of those movements, it helped. It didn't seem that it would come on that strong. So just those little things, to keep moving. Movement, even though you don't want to. Moving is so good, especially if you're having any, bone pain or muscle pain from everything you're going through, right? Just to kind of, if you want to lay down and just try and rest, but it is hard. You got to get up and move, and your body actually feels a little bit better when you do that, right? So that's what, yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, those are some great side effects. I've got lots written down here. Not great side effects, great mitigators for side effects. I've got some of them written down here, and then hopefully anybody listening, especially if they're at the beginning of their journey, can see that there are ways to mitigate these side effects. Yeah, there's going to be times that it's uncomfortable, but everybody's story is different. Like, I know for myself, there was a lot of fears that I had coming in because I would hear someone's story and they had a problem with that. But then I didn't have a problem with that. I had
Yeah.
a problem with this,
Yeah.
and so like everybody is just so vastly different, and
Yeah.
you don't know what your side effects are going to be, but knowing that there's ways to get past them is
Mhm.
such a powerful thing. And brave people like you to share your story and get those side effects mitigated, to say like, I tried this and it worked, like the Jolly Rancher, like that's gold,
It's odd, I know, but
but I
whatever.
mean, like, if I would have known that, I wouldn't have been so nauseous, you know what I mean?
Who knows, right? Maybe it would have worked for you. Who knows? Worth a
That's
try. At
right.
that point, it was, Jolly Ranchers and those little sour soothers, those little chewy ones. I don't know. It was weird.
Those.
I went
Love
through
it.
many, many bags of those. But
Perfect.
yeah,
Good.
so yeah,
Good. Okay.
there are things.
So what final advice would you give to somebody who's recently been diagnosed, who's about to go through a journey like yours, um, that you could tell them that, because if you can go back to where you were and those moments of fear and what you needed to hear, what might you say to that person? Take your time with that.
I honestly just kind of go back to being so afraid initially, and just like, you're way stronger than you ever would give yourself credit for. Honestly, if I had to sit back on a little and look at other people, because you always think it's not going to happen to you, right? It's just one of those things where you go, oh, I'm healthy, like it happens to other people. And when it does happen to you, and you're in the middle of it, you just do what you got to do. You go through day by day, moment by moment, minute by minute sometimes, but you have no idea how strong you are. Like, if I would have been told you're going to end up with this, I don't know what I would have done, right? Like, there's no way I could have thought that I could have it in me to get through the things that you go through. And you do. I don't know where that strength comes from, but you have it in you and you just do it. You just do it. Yeah.
What a beautiful way to end. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being brave, for telling your story, for giving us some tangible side effect tools, and then finally for that beautiful final words, because it is the truth. We don't realize how strong we are, and then we do, and we get through it, and we just, with so much grace.
Yes.
And here you
Yes.
are,
Yes.
perfectly
Yes.
healthy.
Yes.
You look so vibrant.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, it's just a pleasure to have met you and brought you on the pod. So thank you so much,
Thank
Jodi.
you. You have been a shining light for me too. So I'm happy to have met you, and
It's my absolute pleasure.
uh,
Beauty knows beauty.
well, thank you so much for letting me do this with you today.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening. If you found expansion with this last episode, then that means that others will too. And the best way to get the word out about the podcast is by leaving a review. I would be so grateful if you could leave me a review and let me know how you felt about the podcast. Included in the show notes will be everything that we talked about today, including all of my transformative programs. Change is just on the horizon, my friend.